Hey viewers, welcome back to the Renewalism Show. And we are on the 30th episode. It's very interesting because, according to the back cover of the book, Renewal, the world is just 30 habits away from renewal. And every episode in the last 29 days, we've been covering one of these habits that can help us renew at a mind, body, spirit level, or help us renew our relationships with each other or with the environment or with the planet, or help us renew our thinking around the man-made world order, which has led to the creation of systems which have kind of trapped us. And the last 3 months that we've been engulfed in the corona crisis, a lot of these habits that are talked of in this book have started manifesting the results of making the world better. The air's gone better, the water's gone better. Our own personal habits have made us realize the value of relationships and what have you. We've even started buying more stuff online. We've become more minimalistic in our thinking, and we've also learned how to cope with ourselves and our families without having to resort to pacifying the kids in the mall and stuff like that. Interestingly, a lot of this has already been documented in the book, which basically is now going to serve to help us ground into habits that stay with us so that we don't regress into the old ways which started creating all those problems for us. So every day we have this guest, and today I'm thrilled to have a guest who's very, very dear to me. In fact, in the preface of the book, I mentioned his name. He's a mentor to me. He's a life coach to many. He's a corporate trainer, and he's a really chilled out guy. And that's why the subject that I'm going to discuss with him is also about something very chilled out and at the same time, extremely deep. It's a habit that I pick up from the book, and you can grab your copy at renewalism.com. You can grab a paperback anywhere in the world, and or an e-copy, and renewalism.com is your starting point for Amazon and any other site. Coming to the habit, it's very simple. It says ventilate, travel, mingle. Three rather disparate words, but three words that have a very deep connection in our interactions with our outer worlds. So there is a scientific analogy that did I mention Guru Pranachandra? Well, if you haven't seen the earlier episodes, you're here for the first time. This book was kind of channeled to me by an energy form called Guru Pranachandra. So these habits are not coming from my imagination, they're coming from pure divine energy. And Guru Pranachandra says, and I read to you, I'm no scientist, but I'm given to understand that the foundation of quantum mechanics is the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. It concerns itself with the relationship between the position of an atomic particle and its momentum, which can be loosely understood as its velocity. Simply put, we cannot simultaneously measure both the exact position and the velocity of an object. When you are stuck with position where you are, sometimes physically, like the ego-driven positions, I am the CEO of a company or whatever, then you close yourself to movements, to velocity, to momentum, to possibilities. And light theory between a wave and a particle form does enough to justify this in scientific terms. So when we're talking about ventilating, traveling, mingling, I'd like to invite Arjun Iyer to give a life perspective and a scientific perspective on how important this is to our consciousness. Arjun, can we have you on the show? So
Okay.
awesome.
Thank
Great.
you. Right there. Wonderful. Wonderful to be here, Sandeep, and congratulations on the book.
Thank
I
you.
have been reading some of it, and I'm truly excited with the prolific energy that is flowing through the book and through you from Guru Pranachandra, of course, and certainly is being made available to us at a time when humanity, I do believe, is ready to receive this kind of information. So heartfelt thanks to Guru Pranachandra, and heartfelt thanks to you for bringing this book into fruition, into manifestation at this time and in this place.
Thank you. Thank you. So, coming to the subject that I know you so well for, raising people's consciousness,
Yeah.
and also, you know, being an entrepreneur, the amount of stuff that you have physically been doing in terms of interacting with people, and you being based in Dubai and traveling all over, this habit sort of just had your name written on it. And I'd like your open views on this before we flow deeper.
I think when you and me had the conversation and we were talking about what would be an area that I could speak about, and even before I'd read any of the book, I started just verbosely expressing my fascination with consciousness, quantum physics, wave particle duality, and those sort of things. And you just brought in this chapter, and of course, it fits in beautifully well. And you started the introduction by speaking about the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, which takes us from position to velocity. And in a sense, position is this is where we are. And I also use the word potential. Potential is where we could possibly be. And where we could possibly be doesn't have to be at one point in space, because there is a multitude. In fact, there is an infinity of possibilities every nanosecond from this second onwards, leading us into multiple quantum multiverses that can take us towards riches or rags, towards prosperity or poverty, towards success or failure, or towards just joy, peace, and happiness, or the depths of depression. So this is a very, very exciting subject, and more people now are eh, becoming aware. Some of them are becoming aware through educational forums. Some of them are becoming aware intuitively about the concept of not just the universe, but the multiverse, about what really is free will. And even before what free will is, what is the meaning of I? I mean, who am I, or what is the I that makes certain decisions to move in certain directions and have certain experiences? So this is a very exciting topic, very relevant for today. And I was hesitant to speak openly about it, say 3, 4, or 5 years ago when I became aware of this subject. But now I'm more excited to speak about it than ever before, because there is an audience that is ready to receive this information and utilize it for their benefit as well as the benefit of others. So yeah, there you go.
Exactly. Sorry, I froze for a moment, but that was great. I was hearing you all along, and what I heard you say was about, you know, the word depression, and I sort of thought that that's one area we must go down today, because the purpose of having experts like you on the show every day is to make the habits relatable. And I think a lot of people, because of the crisis around us, are tending to travel in that down that rabbit hole. So, what would you say is the actual way that one would look at you know look at the crisis positively, for example, and get out of any possibilities of stress or depression?
Yeah, so opportunity usually comes disguised as adversity, and we can either look at this as a stumbling block or a stepping stone. And in human history, time and again, our greatest victories have come on the heels of great challenges and suffering. This is true not only of the collective humanity, us as a population, but also you and me in our individual lives have tended, and our viewers too would be able to think of specific times in their life when they've had terribly adverse situations and are better because of it.
Yeah.
My teacher Basil often says, I mean, when you have a challenge, you either become better or you become bitter. And very often you need contrast, challenge, adversity in order to bring out the best in you. It's like the gym. If you're not going to push a heavier weight than what your muscles can tolerate, the muscles are not going to grow. If you're not going to run a little bit beyond the capacity of what you think your body can take, your stamina is not going to increase. In a yoga asana also, you just go a little bit more than what you're comfortable, and that now expands your comfort zone into your capacity zone, which is
Right.
what we are experiencing experiencing right now. So yeah, that's the whole thing. That's a perspective. That's a way to look at it. Now I understand that when you're in the situation, it could be challenging for you to go through and grow through, which is why in your book, Sandeep, there are so many tools, particularly the tools of mindfulness and breathing, which allows you to, at least in the short term, address the disempowering, unresourceful emotions that one is experiencing in the here and now, while the progressive long-term play of this whole thing kind of works itself out. So which is a beautiful thing, and I encourage viewers to review the individual habits that you mentioned in that book and learn specifically about tools that can help you with an emotion like depression, guilt, sadness, despair, and so on and so forth.
Right, right. And a lot of sadness and stress and depression is also born out of the fact that we suddenly feel isolated and, we're not able to mingle, which is why it's so very important to travel, mingle, and ventilate.
Yeah, yeah.
I came across some stuff on Facebook recently, which allowed me to travel into my travel albums. And every day for the last 10 days, we were in a sort of chain where we were tagging somebody and having a photograph of us displayed every day. And then they were in turn tagging others. And it was for me very, very pleasant because I was just digging into my albums. But it was kind of virtual travel, but and I suspect that would also give a lot of positivity. I did feel it every time I was searching, but the question was that is there anything other than that that we could do by utilizing this habit
Yeah.
practically?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And travel and mingle. As a species, we have become so habituated to the ease of moving around with these metallic birds that go up in the air and within a handful of hours get us to the other side of the planet. We call them airplanes. And such a large percentage of the population. I'm given to understand that at any given point in time, this is prior to the COVID crisis, at least 6 to 7 million people are up in the air at any given point in time. And that's a huge number of people moving from one place to the other. And we've done that, and that's beautiful. And some of you have done a lot of it, some of you have done some of it. I was talking to a lady at one of the sessions that we were conducting, and she was really upset because one of her passions is travel. And now, because of the restrictions, she's not able to do it, at least in the manner in which she wants to do it. And that
Yeah.
got us into the discussion of the inner travel, where you are now able to start going and looking within. When Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin came back from the moon, they had
Hmm.
traveled to the moon. They were the first two human beings to travel to, a celestial body outside the Earth. That was a lot of travel. When they came back and had their ticker tape parade and their photograph with the president and were the most renowned people on the planet, within 6 to 12 months, Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong went into depression because they had traveled, they had done the most amazing thing. But now, what else lies beyond going to the moon? And many of the counselors and advisors that they worked with actually helped them to heal through the process of inner travel. And that inner travel is now going within and building a deeper relationship with yourself. If you want to have a good relationship with other people, then the most important person for you to first have a relationship with is yourself. In Hamlet, William Shakespeare said, above all, to thine own self first be true. And the highest form of truth is truth to yourself. And the greatest discovery is the discovery of who you really are. What are your strengths? What are your proclivities? What are your tendencies? And accepting yourself, accepting the divine in you and accepting the diabolical, the sinner and the saint, the profound and the profane, because you are all of it. And then from that place, when you start loving yourself for everything that you are, the darkness as well as the light, that love, that energy, that excitement, that connection now organically connects the most beautiful external relationships with nature, with animals, and with our fellow human beings. And certainly, if you're in a relationship with your spouse and your children, and so on and so forth, which is a great cause of tension for many of us humans.
Yeah. Wow, that viewers was awesome. Inner travel. I mean, I think a few minutes ago when Arjun was talking about mindfulness as a practical tip, I too didn't relate it as well as I do now, because that's what inner travel is about, which can bring you joy because you connect with your self-love. That's so deep and so practical and so required these days, when we can choose to be a victim or we can choose to be the victor,
Yes.
and this is a way of doing that. So fantastic, Arjun. I'm going to come back to you, but let me just tell viewers that now that we are into 30 habits over the last 30 days, from tomorrow at 9 o'clock on the very same page, I'm going to be back with you with some readings of the book. And importantly, a reading of the talk by Guru Pranachandra to start with. And I'm going to also be reading to you an explanation of the symbol, which is the symbol of the renewalism movement, which you and I are going to start on, because that's your unexpected role in saving the planet. So join me again at 9 o'clock tomorrow on the same page. Subscribe to the channel so that you keep getting the notifications of new videos every day. And that said, I'd like to have Arjun tell us some last words of wisdom on this habit or anything. In fact, you didn't tell us very much about the consciousness science connection. Love to close on that if you'd like to.
Yeah, sure. So, the thing is now more and more, so scientists are discovering or actually have discovered more than a century ago, of course, that the universe that we live in, all of physical matter, in fact, even matter that we consider to be inanimate matter, is actually full of energy, information, and life. And all of it is vibrating at various frequencies. What makes the difference between this as cloth and this as wood and this as skin or this as a crystal is just the frequency at which it vibrates. And it's vibrating at different frequencies, and therefore it manifests as cloth, wood, crystal, and skin. And our awareness, our mind, our consciousness is tuned in and is part of this reality that we are witnessing through our five senses and making some kind of sense out of. And perhaps, uh, you know, more people now than ever before are tuning into the true nature of reality using their sixth sense, which is their intuition, coming through from meditative practices, and
Mm-hmm.
realizing that we are actually in a paradigm, and this paradigm that we are in is can be stated only in one word, and that one word is infinity. And there is an
Infinity.
infinity of potential and infinity of possibility. You can have an infinity of terrible, horrible, awful, ugly outcomes, and you can have an infinity of magnificent, fabulous, terrific, marvelous outcomes, and everything in between if you choose. And therefore, that's your choice at every given moment in time. And if you're not choosing, you're losing. And therefore, when we become metacognizant, and metacognition is becoming aware of what we're thinking about. If we're not thinking about what we're thinking about, we're missing out on a huge opportunity to create the life of our dreams, or to at least discover the kind of dreams that we are meant to be living with and living by. So I would encourage all of you guys to get curious about quantum physics. Check out a video on YouTube called The Double Slit Experiment. Watch uh, uh, What the Bleep Down the Rabbit Hole, a fabulous documentary. And make sure you read every page and every word of Sandeep's book to kind of coalesce yourself with the whole marriage between consciousness, science, and yourself, and understand what your role is. And from that place of awareness, the kind of peace that you have is so magnificent. From that place of peace, everything that you want just comes to reality, comes to fruition. So yeah, try to keep it short, Sandeep. So I can talk about it
Fantastic.
hours, talking as succinct and concise as I possibly can. But here we go. I'm conscious of time.
Oh, fantastic. What a nugget that was. If you aren't choosing, you're losing. I love it. So choose the book and choose to be a renewalist. And I'll catch you tomorrow. Thanks for being on the show. Thanks, Arjun. And you all have a very good night. Thank you.